He followed the rules for 40 years. He worked the desk, signed the papers, and waited for the freedom he was promised. But now, standing at the finish line, the math doesn't add up. The safe path was supposed to lead to a life of abundance. Instead, it led to a mailbox full of bills, and a body too tired to enjoy the rest. Something went wrong along the way, but it wasn't a mistake of effort. He worked harder than most, yet the result is the same as those who did nothing. The realization hits late. The game he was playing had no winning outcome. Most people spend their entire lives following a script they never bothered to read. They believe that if they are patient and diligent, the world will eventually pay them back. This is the comfort of the standard narrative. The promise is simple: go to school and get a good job, and save 10% of your paycheck. We are taught that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. We trust the experts who tell us to diversify our portfolios and wait for the market to do its magic. It feels responsible. It feels safe. It feels like the right thing to do. But this safety is built on a foundation of sand. We assume our jobs will always be there, and our health will remain constant. We believe the advice we hear from people who seem to know more than we do. We follow the plan without questioning the source of the plan. And we ignore the nagging feeling that we are trading our best years for a possibility, not a certainty. This common approach is analyzed deeply in The Millionaire Fastlanes. The people giving advice deserve a closer look. The gurus who tell you to save your way to wealth often aren't using that method themselves. They sell books, fill stadiums, and build massive businesses while telling you to buy mutual funds. It's a paradox. They are rich because of their process, but they teach you a different one. Even your well-meaning relatives who advocate for a steady job are often broke know-it-alls. They offer a map they have never successfully used to reach the destination. If the teacher hasn't mastered the subject, the student is destined to fail. This is the first crack in the armor of conventional wisdom. We realize that the strategy we've adopted doesn't mirror the success we admire. We're operating under a flawed equation that we never bothered to check. This equation relies on variables you cannot control. It's a gamble of hope. There are 7 dangers that could derail everything at any moment. First, your health is a ticking clock you can't rewind. If you spend 40 years saving, will you have the energy to spend it? Then there is the job you rely on for every cent. You are one board meeting away from losing your entire income stream. The economy can turn on a dime, wiping out decades of safe investments. Your home equity, the investment you live in, is subject to the market. If the market crashes, your net worth crashes with it. Company failures can turn your pension into a ghost story. And eventually, the grind causes lifestyle degradation. You stop living today because you are obsessed with a maybe tomorrow. When the plan fails to deliver, most people just try to push the accelerator harder. They work more hours, take on a second job, or go back to school for another degree. They think that by increasing their intrinsic value, they can beat the system. But you are still selling your time, and time is a finite resource. You cannot work 500 hours in a week, no matter how hard you try. The math is rigged against you because your leverage is limited. Even if you find a better investment yield, it's still a drop in the bucket if the principal is small. This is the millionaire trap. Society has sold us the idea that $1 million is the ultimate destination, but $1 million achieved through the slow lane often looks like a middle-class life. You are still cutting coupons, still watching the budget, and still afraid to spend. Lottery winners fall into this trap quickly. They mistake a small fortune for permanent freedom and spend it all on liabilities. True freedom requires a different scale of wealth entirely. The difference between those who struggle and those who thrive is the equation they use. The slow path is defined by uncontrollable limited leverage. You don't control the economy, your boss, or the stock market, and your ability to scale is capped by the number of hours you can physically work. This leads to a lifetime of mediocrity and hope as a strategy. To see the alternative, we must look at the parable of Azur and Chuma. Both were tasked with building a massive pyramid. Azur began immediately, dragging heavy stones by hand day after day. He grew stronger, but the stones became heavier as the pyramid grew taller. He spent all his money on gym equipment and supplements just to keep up. Chuma, however, did not move a single stone for the first 3 years. He spent his time in a shed, working on a complex machine. The town mocked him, calling him lazy and a dreamer. Azur's pyramid was halfway done, while Chuma had nothing to show. But then, Chuma finished his machine. With the pull of a lever, the machine lifted stones effortlessly. In 1 year, Chuma completed his pyramid and retired in his youth. Azur died of exhaustion before his pyramid was even finished. Azur worked in the system. Chuma worked on the system. The difference is leverage. One path relies on time, which is limited. The other relies on a system, which can be infinite. If you're the source of the labor, you are the bottleneck of your own wealth. True wealth creation is precluded by process. It's not about finding a get-rich-easy scheme. It's about building the machine that can do the work while you sleep. This shift in perception changes everything. You stop looking for a better job and start looking for a better equation. You realize that playing defense cutting costs will never make you wealthy. Only an explosion of income can do that. The game is only rigged if you insist on playing by the rules of the slow lane. Once you see the machine, you can never go back to dragging stones. The choice is which pyramid you are building, and how much of your life you are willing to lose in the process.